drove that little kid crazy. And that little kid did the Martin Lawrence, took the clothes off and ran out into the street and all of this, which you know they say artists do.
What?
When they go through that one. And yeah, man, that's how artists go crazy.
Told us who he is. I'm gonna introduce him again. It's the man Jerome Childish. Last time you probably seen him was when he was a childhood superstar, hanging with some of the biggest stars in the game. You know, Puff Daddy, 112, Mace, all of those greats from Bad Boys. He was signed to Bad Boy Records as a teenager. Well, younger than a teenager.
They had these guys, they call it the boiled egg test. They could take a boiled egg, a raw boiled egg, have those guys put their pants down and bend over and they stick it. The eggs break. They say they're not ready yet. They ain't put it.
First, said, did Diddy stay in touch with you as a mentor afterwards, or even now?
No. Like you said, they tread lightly when you're there as a child.
Right.
You know, my dad, you don't mess with somebody's child. That's all I'm gonna say.
Mark Curry's comments about the horrific things former Bad Boy artist Lil Jerome suffered at Diddy's hands have resurfaced again, and this is probably one of the most disturbing and sickening stories about the music industry. For some reason, Lil Jerome's story never received much attention. However, with all these new allegations about Diddy victimizing young male artists like Justin Bieber, the internet is once again talking about Lil Jerome, who signed with Diddy's label before he was a teenager. Diddy was recently hit with a wave of new lawsuits, and lawyer Tony Busby revealed that the youngest accuser is just 9. This got fans on the internet speculating that this victim might be Lil Jerome, because Busby pointed out that the crimes Diddy is being accused of in these new lawsuits took place between 1991 and 2024.
About the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way till this year, 2024. If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years of this type of conduct.
And since Lil Jerome reportedly signed his contract with Diddy when he was around 9, some are wondering if he's one of the accusers suing Diddy. But regardless of that, what we need to talk about is the heartbreaking and horrifying details of Lil Jerome's life. According to Mark Curry, Diddy did something to Lil Jerome that was so brutal that it drove him crazy, and Lil Jerome himself admitted that he suffered a nervous breakdown when he was just 14. This story is truly disturbing, but it deserves to be told because there might be many other victims out there who have been silenced and forgotten, just like Jerome Childish.
He went out to the street speaking in tongues, so you'd be like, not only is he out in the street naked, he's speaking in tongues.
What?
I mean, something else got a hold of this man.
Deal with the devil. Lil Jerome was born Stanley Jerome Childish in Akron, Ohio. He showed interest in singing at a young age and started performing with his sister's band. Jerome's sister's band recorded some demos with a local Ohio musician who happened to have connections with Jodeci. Jodeci was signed to Uptown Records, where Diddy worked as an intern before moving up the ranks to talent manager. So this musician, who recorded with Jerome's sister, passed the demo records to some of his friends in New York, and the demos eventually reached Diddy. Diddy was then shown a videotape of Jerome performing, and he immediately arranged for Jerome, his parents, and sister to fly to New York. That's where Jerome auditioned in front of Diddy, and Diddy was so impressed that he signed him on the spot. Now, there's been a lot of conflicting information online about how old Jerome was when he signed with Diddy, with some sources claiming he was 11 or 12. However, Jerome himself later confirmed that he was actually only 9 in this interview that's still up on badboyblog.com. They asked Jerome how old he was when he signed with Bad Boy, and he said, "I was about 9 and a half, so Jerome's dad decided to move to New York with Jerome and enrolled him in a new school for kids that worked in show business." Jerome's dad even quit his job to work as Jerome's manager. However, multiple sources have hinted that Jerome's dad wasn't that hands-on, and Jerome was allegedly often left alone with Diddy in the studio. Lil Jerome made his debut on the compilation album Nothing But the Hotness in 1998, and he went on to collaborate with many popular artists and producers, including Kelly Price, Mario Winans, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, Faith Evans, and Heavy D. Jerome also contributed to the soundtrack for the cult film Belly, covering Stevie Wonder's classic Never Dreamed You'd Leave in Summer in 1998. Lil Jerome dropped the single Too Old For Me with Diddy, which was included in the Bad Boy Greatest Hits Volume 1 compilation album. Diddy appears with Lil Jerome in the video, and he's shown giving him dating advice.
See, when I was your age, how old are you?
11.
Yeah, when I was 11, I used to have a crush on this girl that was thick skin. And I never got up enough nerve to say nothing to her. So she never even knew I liked her. And to this day, I still think about it. So I don't think you should pass up the opportunity. You should holler at her. I don't know how you feel. Alright, you do your thing. I'll be right here.
Now, the fact that in the video Lil Jerome is shown singing to a grown woman is already creepy enough, but it's nothing compared to what Diddy allegedly did to Lil Jerome. Before we get into that, let's talk about how Lil Jerome suffered a nervous breakdown just before he left Bad Boy at 13 years old. In that same interview for Bad Boy blog, Lil Jerome was asked what happened that made him leave the label so quickly, and Jerome said, "Well, it's just a mixture of the growing pains and the pressure of the music business. I had a nervous breakdown. And it was in Puffy's best interest to not keep the project." According to Jerome, he also started experiencing issues with his voice during puberty, and he was eventually diagnosed with reflux disease. Lil Jerome said, "The crazy thing was that at the time when I started going through puberty and then my voice started acting up, I didn't have a normal voice change. Once my voice started to change, it didn't change normally. I was going through reflux disease also, so you know. There would come times when I would try to hit notes and nothing would come out," according to Lil Jerome. This was driving the label crazy because they didn't know what was going on. At the time, we first thought it was the voice change, but we realized it wasn't the voice change. Lil Jerome said, "I had actually gone through the voice change already. They thought it was allergies, and then after they realized it wasn't that, they finally realized it was reflux disease." However, Lil Jerome also hinted that he started experiencing some emotional issues. He said, "It was hard to deal with the voice change. Plus, mentally I started becoming emotionally different. You know, sometimes when you go through puberty, your emotions start to get out of whack too. And then on top of that, at the time that I was going through those changes. That's when everything started to speed up in the music business because I was about to release my album. So, you know, the schedules of studio time and photo shoots started to go back to back. And like I said, the pressure of that and the growing pains bore down on me, and I had a breakdown." Now, here's where the story takes a dark turn. There's this article titled "A Keen Wonder" that was originally published on January 14, 1999, in Cleveland Scene. The article says that Puffy Combs signed Jerome Childers to be the cuddly mascot of hip-hop. The article also mentions how, after Diddy flew out Lil Jerome and his family to New York, he would take Jerome to different industry parties where he mingled with Jay-Z, Mariah Carey, Timbaland, and Clive Davis. Another red flag is that the article mentions how, after Lil Jerome signed with Diddy, suddenly there were conflicting reports in the media about his age, almost as if someone was trying to hide just how young Lil Jerome was. The article says, "Already, Jerome's age is becoming elastic. By different accounts, Jerome is 11, 12, or 13, and in the 6th or 7th grade. Yes, star bios are notorious for shaving off the years, for making the rags raggedier, the riches richer. Journalists are sloppy. Edges were meant to be rounded." Then the article also mentions how Lil Jerome got a taste of the high life. After attending one of Diddy's parties, Lil Jerome said, "Right afterwards, I came home, and it was so boring because you got all that excitement, and then afterwards it goes way down. It makes you want to get more and more." But here's where we get to the most disturbing part of the story. An interview with former Bad Boy artist Mark Curry has surfaced, where he talks about exactly what happened to Lil Jerome when he had that nervous breakdown. Mark Curry speaks out. Back in December 2023, shortly after Cassie's explosive lawsuit opened up a flood of allegations, Mark Curry gave an interview for Goats, where he dropped some seriously disturbing revelations about Lil Jerome and his time at Bad Boy. According to Mark, Lil Jerome didn't just have a typical nervous breakdown, he literally ran out of Diddy's studio without any clothes on and was speaking in tongues. Mark first said that Diddy made Lil Jerome sing about kissing a girl, and since he was so young, that caused him to break down. However, Mark then admitted that this episode with Lil Jerome running out on the street with no clothes may have been caused by something else.
I know one kid, his name is Jerome, Lil Jerome, on Childers. He's a gospel dude. And he had a real crazy voice. He was a kid, like 11 years old, 10 or something like that. And then they took one of his songs that he knew how to sing real good in church, and they changed it to a song about him kissing a girl for the first time. He didn't really feel it. He didn't really feel that. He too young to understand what it's like kissing a girl and y'all telling them to say it like this. And they drove that little kid crazy. And that little kid did the Martin Lawrence, took the clothes off and ran out into the street and all of this, which you know they say artists do. When they go through that one. And yeah, man, that's how artists go crazy. The first thing they do is take their clothes off and run out into the street.
I heard about the whole Martin thing, and the whole industry thing kind of made him go crazy.
He ain't the first one that did that. A lot of them do it. And then he went out to the street speaking in tongues. So you'd be like, not only is he out in the street naked, he's speaking in tongues.
What?
I mean, something else got a hold of this man. It's like you kind of like, it's almost like making you sing a song about kissing a girl. You never kissed a girl before. You'd be like, how can I really sing this song and really love it?
Right.
Artists.
However, a lot of people in the comments said both Mark and the interviewer showed ignorance by talking about this incident like it's a laughing matter. One fan commented, "That baby didn't just take his clothes off and run in the street. That's not the truth. They were in there doing unspeakable acts to that baby. A bunch of grown, disgusting demons. This just off, and the laughing was disgusting." Another person wrote, "This is the second story that Mark has told that really makes me look at him with a side eye. It's not funny that a child experienced that, like it wasn't funny about women having the juice for their drinks tampered with or another almost drinking Diddy's. It's not funny. And for any grown, very grown man to think it is by laughing makes me think that he was part of the madness as well, but too broke and not relevant to be judged as Diddy. Laugh now, cry later, the wheels of justice stay turning, and karma makes her rounds eventually." Now, going back to Lil Jerome. After he left Bad Boy, he never returned to music again. According to this article published in the Canton Repository, Jerome now works as an Alzheimer's disease activist and spends most of his time taking care of his family members affected by the disease. The article says that Jerome's father has a mild cognitive impairment, and one of his father's brothers has cognitive impairment and Parkinson's disease. Jerome told the outlet, "My dad's brother passed away from Lewy body, a form of dementia. His other brother has Parkinson's. My mother is showing signs of it, and my mother's stepfather has it now. My mother's friend is taking care of an aunt with it, and with a touch of schizophrenia." As for that new lawsuit filed against Diddy by a 9-year-old accuser, represented by Tony Busby, there's still no official confirmation that this is Lil Jerome. However, fans are certainly hoping that Lil Jerome will, in some way, get his justice, as well as all other young people Diddy allegedly victimized. From what we're hearing, there could be many more victims coming forward in the following months.
Breaking news right now related to music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Major new allegations today of sexual assault and exploitation by Combs. For the first time, we are hearing about victims who say they were minors when they were allegedly assaulted by the music star. The youngest allegedly just 9 years old.
So who knows what's going on upstairs in the basement with the cameras? What's going on?
There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are.
Diddy might be getting jailed for life according to the latest developments. Diddy didn't just have adults in his freak-offs, there were minions as well, and all of them are grown up now, ready to hold the former music mogul accountable for his actions. And honestly, it's about time. Because what Diddy did to these minions is straight up despicable. The youngest of them was only 9 years old at the time of the incident, and get this, the feds are prepared to uncover even more disturbing details, as they've got more than 3,000 victims lined up. What's more, thanks to the victims' testimonies, the feds now know for sure that there were other celebrities involved as well, and they're going to make sure they pay for helping Diddy with his depraved actions. Just what evidence did the feds stumble on, and who are these other celebs involved? Here's everything we know.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry, that really wasn't a secret at all, has finally been revealed to the world.
Diddy's minion mistreatment exposed. So it turns out that Diddy really is the worst of them all. During a press conference held on October 1st, attorney Tony Busby, with co-counsel Andrew Van Arsdale by his side, turned a lot of heads with his shocking allegations against the former music mogul. Apparently, his law firm had been working to file a bunch of civil lawsuits against Combs, with allegations ranging from mistreatment, fraud, and battery to incidents involving minions. And here's where things get really disturbing. Busby claimed that, so far, his law firm had received calls from 3,285 people, all of whom were traumatized by Diddy at one point in their life. Now, Busby's company did not turn these people away. Instead, they heard them out and have been able to verify the stories of 120 victims up until now, a number that's expected to go up in the future. 60 of these victims are men, whereas 60 of them are women, so it doesn't seem like Diddy had a preference. What's more, there had been a rumor about Diddy targeting black people in particular, but that doesn't seem to be the case. His actions affected all communities. 62% of the plaintiffs were African American, 30% were white, and the remainder were Hispanic or Asian. These victims come from more than 25 different states, with the majority of them from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. More importantly, according to Busby, these incidents spanned from 1991 to 2024. However, the part that has everyone sick to their stomach is this next one. Apparently, 25 of these victims were minions at the time of the incident. When these incidents happened at freak-off parties, New Year's parties, album release parties, white parties, auditions, and something called puppy parties. According to reports, one of the minions, who was 9 years old at the time, was allegedly in a room with Diddy for an audition when he asked the victim to perform favors for him. And it wasn't just Diddy. Once he was done, he asked the others in the room to do the same thing, and in return, Diddy promised him a record deal. Another minion was asked to come back without their parents, and in return, Diddy promised to make him a star. Of course, the victim was young and fell for the former music mogul's lies. Once Diddy got him alone, he had the minion perform oral acts on him. Another minion, who was 15 years old, was flown out to New York City to attend a party. Upon arriving at the party, the plaintiff was offered drinks laced with illegal substances that rendered them defenseless. They remember being in a room with Diddy and others, doing what they wanted to do with them. Another victim was picked up at the airport by Diddy and his entourage in a black SUV and offered a drink in the car, which knocked them out. They woke up the next day with no memory of what had happened. However, the fact that they were missing their shoes and underwear, and that it hurt down there, told them all they needed to know. A male victim also spoke with the law firm on call and said that he had to quit the industry because of what Diddy did to him. Mind you, all of these are cases that Busby and his law firm will be pursuing now. Some of these victims went to the authorities to get their kits done, and that's when the hospital found chemicals in their blood, chemicals that they had never heard of before. One of these chemicals was identified as a horse tranquilizer.
Probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
What's sickening is that the number could essentially go up. According to news reports, more than 12,000 calls in 24 hours have been recorded on the hotline set up for victims to come forward after Busby's press conference. Given the large number of cases, his firm is working overtime to make sure they're covering all their bases. They have over 100 people working on the hotline. Busby also told Urban Hollywood, "From the press conference we had yesterday, we've had 12,000 calls in about 24 hours. So our Herculean task is to try to sift through every one of these calls and make sure that we're identifying those who are victims and those who are witnesses and collect evidence." Busby also mentioned bringing in a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of the Houston Police Department to corroborate the victims' stories.
We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack.
As for why these victims are coming forward now, well, legal experts believe that Diddy's indictment may have set things in motion. After the former music mogul was put behind bars, these people might finally feel safe enough to come forward with their stories and help others get justice as well.
Coming on, first I want to talk about the timing of this. Comes out after the indictment, after the arrest. What do you make of the timing?
I think the timing is about perfect. So a lot of people don't come forward right away because for a number of reasons. And when you do this in this manner after the publicity that the indictment and the arrest have received, a lot of these survivors, this is really kind of top of mind for them right now. And so having this happen right now, it's kind of allowing them that safety, really, and having people that have kind of tried to push this away to think about maybe I should help others. And so I think that's really kind of, some of the more significant parts of why you do this now.
Another reason why these victims may be coming forward right now is that the authorities are listening now, which wasn't the case years ago when these incidents took place. According to attorney Tony Busby, most of these victims were met with indifference when they went to police officers or hospital staff with their stories, and it's obvious why. Back then, Diddy had connections everywhere. He was able to lie his way through an investigation, if there ever was one, and in other cases, he would threaten the victims so they would never come forward.
People that don't have any power or influence, that are confronted with power and influence, and have not been able to break through that until more recently.
According to Busby, 55% of these victims filed reports, and those reports are now going to serve as evidence. However, the biggest question right now is, since Diddy mistreated minions, why wasn't he charged with those crimes in the indictment? Were the feds not aware of those allegations, or did they simply not find any credible evidence? Well, according to legal experts, it's a developing situation. The truth is, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. The feds could be running an investigation of their own, looking into these charges, and could come out with another indictment once they have a strong enough case.
So that evidence still might be being collected. There could be that grand jury could still be sitting and collecting evidence and investigating this right now. There could be superseding indictments that come about. I think that we can't really make any assumptions based upon the indictment that we currently have. I think that, the credibility of those claims, a criminal case and a civil case, as you know, are very different in terms of burden of proof. In a criminal case, you have the higher standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. On the other hand, on the civil case, you have just preponderance of the evidence, which is, just more likely true than not true. If you believe one side a little bit more than the other, then that side wins. So I think that there's also that. And with minor claims, they're particularly tricky because minors' memories are not as good. And when you're talking about adding, being drugged potentially to the mix, that could even make it more complicated in terms of proving these minors' claims. And, something that I encounter frequently in my practice is that, sometimes minors will just say, I don't know, if they just don't want to talk about something. They have very distinct ways of protecting themselves. So it's a lot more difficult to work with minors, and it takes a little bit longer to build those cases. So I wouldn't say we're going to rule that out. There might not be charges with minors, but right now, that's just what we're working with.
But here's where things get really creepy apparently. A 6-year-old is speaking up. So, back in 1991, Justin Lovsky went to a Diddy party in the Hamptons on July 3rd. He is 30 years old right now, but back then, he was only 6. He got the chance to attend the barbecue event thanks to his dad, who worked as a photographer, David Allen. Though Justin did not become one of Diddy's victims, he does remember seeing some odd stuff. At first, he was fangirling over all the A-listers present at the party. He even took a picture with Diddy, but Justin did not see any other kids around him, and that's when an uncomfortable feeling started to settle in. He told the Post, "I remember a lot of blank and a bunch of blank in the pool and around the pool. I actually wanted to get in. Anytime we went anywhere with the pool, I wanted to swim. I didn't know if blanks were a good thing or a bad thing, but I hoped to jump in." He also said, "I don't look like I have a normal smile in the pic," referring to the photos he took at the event. Meanwhile, Maya Lovsky, his mother, told the Post, "There were bottles everywhere and naked women. I wasn't sure if this was appropriate or normal. I wondered about how kids were allowed into the party to begin with." Naturally, the question that most people might have is, why didn't Justin see the freak-offs? Well, you need to understand that Diddy didn't just let anyone in on those events. He held these tame parties for the cameras, and then there were the backroom parties where the mistreatment happened, which only the closest to him knew about.
You know, there's a difference between a Diddy party and then a after dark Diddy party, and then a after dark Diddy party freak off.
Yeah.
Because I've said it, I've been to a Diddy party, like, you know.
I can't wait to see the videos.
No,
can't
listen,
wait.
in Miami, like there's Star Island, there's Hibiscus Island, there's Palm Island. You get invited to these things, these parties. Dude, 300 people are in line to try to get into these parties. But there's a big difference between getting into the island, getting into the house, and then going upstairs to the freak off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay outside.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on?
And so, Diddy has a lot to answer for, and he's not the only one. There were other celebs involved as well. While speaking at the press conference, Busby revealed that Diddy was not the only one implicated in these lawsuits. There were others who didn't just sit by and watch him perform his depraved actions, but they found enjoyment in his actions. And that's exactly why Busby won't be letting them walk free. He was quoted saying, "The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. But because of the nature of this case, we are going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that." The names will shock you, and honestly, fans believe Tony. Over the years, there have been several names tied to Diddy, and even more who attended his parties, including Aretha Franklin, Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, Sarah Jessica Parker, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ashton Kutcher, and others. A lot of these folks have been awfully silent ever since the accusations came to light. As for how Tony's going to expose these supposed listers, well, he's not filing a class action. That means all 120 victims will have individual cases, and he'll be revealing the names case by case so the public can figure out who was where at the time of the incident and what kind of sick acts they took part in. Busby will be filing different civil lawsuits in various states in the next 30 days. And that's not all. According to the Texas lawyers' press conference, most of these incidents occurred at well-known venues and even at the residences of notable celebrities, and Busby plans on going after them as well for allowing Diddy to carry out these heinous acts under their roof.
These defendants will not only include individuals, but would also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. Stop it.
As for Diddy, while one of his attorneys, Erica Wolf, shut down the allegations, claiming that they are nothing but a money grab scheme, she said, he cannot address every meritless allegation in what has become a reckless media circus. That said, Mr. Combs emphatically and categorically denies as false and defamatory any claim that he mistreated anyone, including minions. He looks forward to proving his innocence and vindicating himself in court if and when claims are filed and served, where the truth will be established based on evidence, not speculation. However, Combs' lawyers might want to revisit that statement. Busby didn't sound like he was spinning stories at the press conference. Instead, he specifically said that his firm has corroborated these allegations with evidence such as videos, pictures, text messages, police reports, and hospital records, and so Diddy's lawyers are going to be in trouble once Busby starts filing these lawsuits. FYI, up until now, Diddy's entire argument was that the freak-offs were consensual. However, if Busby is able to prove the presence of minions at these parties, Diddy's entire defense falls apart. More importantly, Diddy's legal team should not underestimate Busby because it's not exactly his first rodeo. The Houston-based lawyer recently went after NFL player Deshaun Watson for mistreatment. FYI, back in 2022, Watson was accused of mistreatment by more than 24 women. 2 Texas grand juries declined to pursue criminal charges against Watson, but he was slapped with an 11-game suspension. Now, Busby is filing another case on behalf of one of his victims, and so he knows his way around high-profile cases. He's got a plan of action to make sure Diddy pays for his crimes. In fact, he has already put some of his plaintiffs in touch with the feds so they can look into building a case against Diddy on this front as well.
And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI.
Safe to say, Diddy's done for. As for fans, well, they're patiently waiting for the truth to come out in a court of law. One person commented, "I'm hoping to hear what they say during trial. I will not pass full judgment now, especially with all these new stories." Meanwhile, another person commented, "Glad he is finally locked up. All the victims need justice, compensation, and healing, but what do you think of the situation? Do you think there's any truth to the stories coming out? How will this impact Diddy's ongoing criminal case? Let us know in the comments section below."
And it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we're trying to scare people, but it's a thought that it forces you to go, because you and I were forced at a young age. Me, because I was doing a lot of drugs, and I was actually so deep into it, and no one really knew that I was, my security was checking my pulse at night to see if I was alive,
This is funny to you guys? No, this is funny to you guys? Get out of here. Get out of here, yo. Seriously, get out of here. It's not funny, bro.
Hello, anything?
Justin Bieber just welcomed his first child with his wife, Hailey, a son named Jack Blues Bieber. But the happy news has been sadly overshadowed by reports that Justin is still struggling with mental health, allegedly due to unresolved trauma from his early days in the music industry. Now, you know how rumors have been flying around that Justin was victimized by P. Diddy and possibly other people in the industry. And now that Diddy is facing a new lawsuit from a man who claims Diddy assaulted him at one of his parties back in the day, fans are again raising alarm about Justin and his past experiences with Diddy. Meanwhile, sources close to Justin are saying his loved ones are extremely worried because despite welcoming his first child, Justin's behavior hasn't changed, and he was recently spotted again lashing out at young fans. According to Justin's friends, he has severe anger issues that he hasn't addressed, and apparently it all stems from trauma from his early days in the industry. So, what's going on with Justin Bieber? Is his behavior really the result of something horrifying that happened to him at the hands of Diddy and other industry folks? Let's break it down.
My security was checking my pulse at night to see if I was alive,
My security was checking my pulse at night to see if I was alive. New Diddy lawsuit. There's this inmate, Derek Lee Cardello Smith, who just managed to put the brakes on Diddy's plans to sell any of his mansions or major real estate. And it's all connected to something that Cardello Smith claims happened to him at one of Diddy's parties back in the 90s. Diddy and his legal team recently made a trip to visit Cardello Smith in jail, where they tried to offer him a $2.3 million settlement. Why? Well, Cardello Smith claims that back in 1997, at one of Diddy's parties, Diddy spiked his drink and assaulted him while he was unconscious. So, Diddy's team hoped that by offering this huge payout, they could avoid a lawsuit over the allegations. The whole meeting went down in the jail's visitor center, and the attorneys who were there are essentially witnesses to what some are calling Diddy's indirect confession. According to his complaint, Cardello Smith claims that back in 1997, he was working as a bartender at a Detroit restaurant when he got invited to a party at the Holiday Inn, where Diddy was hanging out. He accepted, And initially, his impression of Diddy was positive. He seemed surprisingly down to earth. But then, things took a seriously dark turn. Smith says he ended up involved in a group encounter with some women and Diddy. But when Diddy started showing interest in him, Smith quickly moved to sit on a couch. Smith then went to get another drink, and Diddy offered him one, insisting he drink it. Smith, thinking it was just another whiskey, went ahead and drank it. But soon after, he started feeling dizzy and began to pass out. That's when Diddy allegedly revealed that he'd added a little something to the drink and told Smith that he'd get what he wanted one way or another.
I then went to get another drink, and Sean asked me if I needed something else. I said no, and he said, "Here, drink this one." And I thought it was another glass of Jim Beam, so I took it because I had sat one down in the other room, and then I drank some more, and I stayed sitting there and began getting drowsy and started to pass out. And then Sean Combs said to me, "I added a little something to it for you. I will get that from you anyway, one way or another." I then passed out.
So fast forward to the present, and Cardello Smith is going after Diddy for a jaw-dropping $100 million. Shortly after Smith filed his lawsuit, Diddy put his Los Angeles property up for sale, the same property that Homeland Security raided back in March. But Cardello Smith wasn't having it and argued in a motion for a temporary restraining order that this sale was a move to make sure he wouldn't get any money if he won the case. The judge actually agreed with Cardello Smith and ordered a 90-day freeze on the sale of Diddy's property. These shocking details from Cardello Smith's lawsuit have reignited those old rumors about Diddy's creepy behavior toward his young male stars, with Usher and Justin Bieber back in the spotlight. Justin's past with Diddy: you don't need to be a hardcore believer to see that Justin has been going through some serious stuff. Once upon a time, Justin was the king of teen pop, seemingly unstoppable. But then things took a nosedive, and it felt like his love for making music just disappeared. Last year, Justin sold off his entire music catalog for $200 million, and then, out of nowhere, he canceled his world tour the very next month. Now, we all know about that infamous video of Diddy and Justin spending 48 hours together when Justin was just 15. But see, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are now rumors swirling that Diddy didn't just take advantage of Justin when he was new to the industry, allegedly. He might have even passed him around to some of his industry friends. And word on the street is that there's a ring of abusers in the entertainment industry who all cover for each other. You know how Usher also used to live with Diddy when he was young at the so-called Puffy Flavor Camp? This was apparently L.A., Reed's idea. And while we're on the topic of Reed, he's dropped some questionable comments about Justin Bieber before, fueling rumors that he might have had a hand in introducing Justin to Diddy, just like he did with Usher back in the day. In one interview, Reed even called Justin a gift from Usher.
14-year-old Justin Bieber walks into my office as a gift from Usher, who called a few minutes before and said, "Hey, I'm coming to your office at 3 o'clock. I have a very special gift for you." And he shows up with Justin Bieber, and Justin sits down and plays piano. Then he picks up his guitar and plays. And I'm like, oh my God, right? Are you serious? And that day, we made a deal to sign Justin Bieber also.
And then in his memoir, Reed made some weird comments about Justin's physical appearance, comparing him to a beautiful woman. This kid was beautiful like a woman can be beautiful, and men rarely are, Reed wrote, and he turned it on as soon as he stepped into the room. Now, many of Justin's fans are convinced he was used and traumatized as a young star, and some have even speculated that Justin tried to drop hints about what happened to him, but no one took him seriously. Take, for example, Justin's music video for his 2020 track Yummy. The video shows Justin at a fancy dinner party with a bunch of rich older people, and they're being entertained by a band of young musicians. At first glance, it all seems pretty normal, but things get weird as the video nears its end. After everyone clears out, there's this old dude hanging around in the background behind Justin. Then, just as the video wraps up, you see a slice of cake transform into a photo of young Justin, and that final shot felt totally out of place compared to the rest of the video, prompting fans to wonder if Justin was dropping cryptic hints about some shady stuff he's been through in the music industry. Meanwhile, more creepy videos have surfaced of Justin partying with Diddy and his industry friends, like this footage of Diddy and the game encouraging Justin to drink alcohol. If you pay attention, you'll see that Justin is already completely wasted, and if that's not enough, you can clearly see his pants slipping down. let's not forget about this other clip making the rounds. Trey Songz and Odell Beckham Jr. were partying with Justin, and it looks like Justin was on his knees in front of Odell, doing who knows what. Rumor has it that Diddy was the one who pushed Justin down the path of substance addiction, and Justin admitted that he started using substances as a way to escape from everything.
There was a time where I was sipping lean, I was popping pills, I was doing Molly, shrooms, everything. You have all these people around me just kind of hanging on, wanting stuff from me, knowing that I was living this lifestyle that they also wanted to live, drinking, smoking.
What makes this whole situation even more heartbreaking is that Justin had no one he could really trust. Every time he thought he'd found an adult who could help him, they ended up taking advantage of him instead. After allegedly being traumatized by Diddy, Justin sought comfort in religion, but sadly, he got caught up in those sketchy celebrity churches that prey on celebs desperate to escape the dark side of the industry. And get this, last year word got out that Justin hired TriStar Energy Entertainment, the business management company owned by Lou Taylor, Britney Spears' former manager, who's rumored to have played a big role in orchestrating Britney's conservatorship. It's like he jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. Meanwhile, internet detectives uncovered that Lou Taylor wasn't just a business manager, she used to be a board member at Justin's old church, Hillsong. And if that's not wild enough, she's also married to Rob Taylor, a pastor who founded another celebrity church called Calvary Chapel. Fans then started digging into Hillsong, and what they uncovered was shocking. Turns out this church has a history full of controversies and scandals, including some pretty serious crimes against young people.
The decisions taken by Brian Houston, the founder and leader of the Hillsong Church.
And it makes some people out there so angry.
Decisions made while he was head of the Pentecostal movement, the Assemblies of God in Australia.
The devil does go around as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour.
The predator was his own father, Frank Houston, the high-profile pastor who used his position of power to abuse young boys.
Confess your sin to the Lord and he'll blot it out.
But despite all the scandals, Hillsong had a major comeback in the mid-20s, and a lot of that was thanks to celebrity endorsements, Justin Bieber being one of the biggest names attached to the church. Justin and his wife, Hailey, were regulars at Hillsong for years. In 2014, Justin even moved in with his pastor, Carl Lentz, for a few months. And get this, according to Rolling Stone, Justin was baptized by Lentz in a bizarre 2 a.m. ceremony in the bathtub of former NBA star Tyson Chandler. But that's not all. Around this time, some super strange photos and videos started circulating online, showing Justin and Carl looking way too close for comfort. And who could forget that infamous interview where Justin looked like he was high as a kite, while Carl and another pastor seemed like they were worried Justin might spill something he wasn't supposed to.
High as a kite, while Carl and another pastor seemed like they were worried Justin might spill something he wasn't supposed to.
I want to live a life that's closer to God than ever before.
Absolutely. Justin?
Samesies.
Samesies. Carl?
I want to get close like that wisp is to Justin. No, I want to get better. That's why we all came.
I just want to love people more. I just want to love Carl more.
You're doing a good job with that.
You're my man.
Justin, this is your second time at Hillsong Conference?
Yes.
And what's different this time about being here?
I just think my faith grows every day. So my faith is stronger than 2 years ago.
And then there was that video that popped up showing Justin and Carl Lentz in a pool, looking like they were about to kiss. Justin's friendship with Carl took a nosedive in November 2020 after Carl got fired from Hillsong for cheating on his wife with another woman. But instead of stepping away from the celebrity church scene, Justin and Hailey joined another sketchy megachurch called Church Home. Now, here's where things get even wilder. You've probably heard those rumors about Justin and Hailey being in an arranged marriage, right? Justin himself has joked about it before.
I think because she was raised Christian, and I think she they found out that, like, I think it was an arranged marriage, I'm pretty sure. I'm not. Looking back now, I'm like, it was definitely an arranged marriage. Like, they set this whole thing up.
But what's your take on Justin's rumored issues with mental health? Do you think it has something to do with Diddy and what allegedly happened to him when he was starting out in the industry? Leave your comments below and don't miss out on this next video.